Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, those freaking icy boys are back with yet another freaking Kaspa ASIC price cut. Okay, this is like the never-ending battle between Kaspa ASICs and IceRiver is, honestly, they're always the one kind of like starting it, right? So that's kind of a good thing. It's definitely a good thing unless you're a person who bought one of these recent batches and it's not a fun time. Okay, so we're going to talk about who's getting affected the most here. We'll talk about the prices and we'll compare it to the competition, right? Because this is now with this price cut, it is kind of a game changer, right? So we'll talk about it and kind of give our thoughts and opinions on it, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get to this thing. So they just tweeted this literally a few minutes ago. We'll just get right to the chase. This isn't going to be a lengthy video. We already kind of know the effects of the hash rate and profitability and emissions reduction. So we're not going to go into all that. This is going to be more of a straight comparison to the other units. Okay. So KS5L. This is the most enticing one, down to 4,800 bucks. Yes, this is the same unit that just recently got reduced to 7,600. And now freaking 4,800 bucks. Okay. So we'll talk about what they're doing to kind of help the people out who got into this last batch. But let's get to the next one. The KS5M down to 7,500 bucks. This is that 15 terahash unit, the new model. And the KS0 Ultra coming in at 239. Okay, another pretty big price point. And this one specifically for Gold Shell. So now they're not just trying to piss bitmain off. They're going after Gold Shell as well here with this one. Okay. So this is their first anniversary special event. So they are trying to help out the people who purchased in the June batch. But again, this only kind of helps you out if you are considering like doubling down and buying another unit, right? So this is kind of something they actually did in one of the early batches. Maybe the second, maybe the third batch. I remember it was one of the batches right after the first big price cut. They did issue coupons for those people who did purchase initially for them to essentially double down. Right, so this is kind of funny that they kind of brought this back because that was, again, something that was a year ago. So anyways, anybody who ordered the June batch, so right now this is only for the June batch people though, right? So where it extremely sucks is anybody who got in that early KS5L batch, because this is a massive price difference from that price point to now, which again, a lot of those people just got the KS5L weeks ago. Okay, it's shitty, right? There's no other way to put it, right? But so people who got in the June batch, they are going to issue coupons for the KS0 Ultra and KS5L to be $200 a terahash, KS5M $250 a terahash. Coupon's going to be valid for 3 months, and the coupon will be issued to your account when the sales start, which they start tomorrow, June 14th at 10 a.m. Okay, if you did purchase from a reseller, reach out to that reseller to see how they're going to handle it. Are they going to issue you a similar coupon, or are they just going to offer you the other unit at that new price point, right? Because that's essentially what it's going to be. Okay. So let's start doing some comparisons. So overall thoughts, just quickly going through the thing, pretty significant, right? It's something that I kind of wasn't expecting until the August batch. Okay. So my main complaint with the previous one is that it still realistically wasn't cheap enough, which is kind of hard to say because if you look at the profitability, price was still pretty good for the profitability, but it's just in comparison to what? In comparison to this guy, the KS5 Pro kind of set the standard for where prices need to be. Again, my biggest gripe with that last price reduction is that it still did not beat the bitmain unit. Okay, the value to me just wasn't enough because it has to be cheaper than it. To me, they're not on par. The KS5 Pro and the KS5L M are not on par with this unit, so the pricing shouldn't be there. Okay, so now finally, though, this price reduction did definitely reduce the price now. Okay, so now the KS5L is where it should have launched at with this initial price reduction. They should have just been aggressive, and to me, I think they kind of realized that mistake. Well, I'm guessing they probably didn't have the sales they expected. I don't know what the deal is, but in reality, it's a super shitty situation where literally just weeks ago, the price went down to 7,600 bucks, which street price was like 6,900. Okay, and then to do another price reduction right after is pretty shitty. They should have just gone with this price if this was the price point in mind. Okay, they should have gone just where it should have been. Because now it brings this guy, the KS5L, down to $400 a terahash, right? So now there's a 20% discount for buying the IceRiver unit, which is where it should have been. So now to me, the pricing does make more sense. Now it does make it more enticing. It's not as good of a unit. It's not as efficient. It's not as dense. It's not as going to be reliable, dependable, etc., etc. But at least now it's cheaper than the KS5 Pro. Now the pricing starts to make a little bit more sense. Did I think they were going to do it this early? No. My thought was they were going to roll the dice, hoping that Kaspa were to appreciate, and then potentially do this in the August batch, right? Because again, we know that this isn't going to ship until August. So it kind of gave them a few months, and this is kind of the difficulty with doing pre-orders this far ahead of time, right? You're kind of putting that big target on your back. Regardless of which company who's doing it, you're putting that target on your back for people to beat you to it, right? So this is where it kind of gets extremely tricky. So again, my personal prediction was that if Kaspa was going to run sideways, you're kind of taking the risk. But by the August batch, by the time that batch went on sale, this is when we would see this, okay? Honestly, didn't think it was going to come this early. So this is their 1 year sale, but it is for this July batch. So this is gonna, it does seem like this price is gonna be for this July batch. Okay, so those are the thoughts on the KS5L. It's up to you whether that price point is still going to be worth it, right? Because in reality, it's still only a 20% price cut, which is better. I mean, it's I'm kind of making it, downplaying it. It's not really the case. It's getting to the point now that definitely has me recalculating things. I'm gonna have to look at things a little bit differently because again, to me it was this guy or the L9. Now with this potentially, like eyeballing it, because typically a lot of the resellers are lower than the IceRiver price, I could potentially almost get 2 units for nearly the price of one of those, right? I was kind of considering the L9 or KS5 Pro. Now, realistic, I'm going to run the numbers of maybe doing the KS5L and potentially the L9. Okay, so this does change things even for me quite a bit, right? Because at this point, it does make it more enticing, especially the fact that you would get it also earlier. That's another big thing before the massive hash rate increase we're going to get August, September when the big guys come out, okay? So those are kind of the quick thoughts on the KS5L. KS5M, it's not super enticing because again, they're charging a premium essentially for having this guy. Yes, it's more efficient than the KS5L, but again, price per terahash is what I'm looking at, and this one's priced at 500 a terahash, which is equivalent to this guy. Again, it needs to be discounted, and it's not a big enough difference over the KS5L for me to justify it essentially. I would rather just go with this guy, okay? And then the KS0 Ultra is also a game changer, right? Even if you're not too interested in this guy, because it does definitely affect the gold shell unit. Okay, Gold Shell actually decided to kind of play ball, which is kind of surprising. Typically, they've been kind of on their own island, kind of ignoring everything. But once the KS0 Ultra was announced, they did actually reduce their prices on the KBox Pro to be more in line with the KS0 Ultra. Because remember, they scale in exactly for the KS0 Ultras was one of these guys. So there is still a slight premium, right? But this is definitely better than that like 22 to 2500 range. And it brought it in line with the KS0 Ultra, right? Less efficient, couple $100 more, but you get the advantage of it, the density factor of just controlling one box versus 4 other units. Okay, so depending on your setup, there's pros and cons to each one, but now it kind of made sense, right? At that point, you're paying a couple $100 for just having the factor of one box versus the 4 of those things. With this price cut, though, it definitely screws over anybody who bought the KBox or KBox Pro. Reason being is that now it's $239. Okay, if we compare it, easy math, round it up to $250 for those units, $1,000 versus this $1,700, which was just reduced. Are they going to reduce again? Maybe, maybe not. But now it's to the point with this price, you can freaking get 7 of those KS0 Ultras, bringing you to 2.8 gigahash for about the price of the KBox Pro. Pretty significant. Now, yes, you're going to have the pain in the ass of running 7 of those units, powering 7 of those units, but it's just value-wise, right? To me, the price per terahash, again, with Kaspa units, is kind of everything.
So is gold shell going to reduce again? They probably should. Will they? Probably not, though. They're very like stubborn and hard-headed in that realm. Like, but it was good to see them actually pay attention to the market and reduce with the KS0 Ultra coming out. Now, in reality, who does that hurt? The people who bought in the gold shell unit, right? It's super shitty situation, especially if you bought in the original freaking KA box, right? Which was $2,200, and then weeks later the KA box Pro comes out, essentially at the same price. And now this freaking KS0 Ultra comes out at a massively better deal than that. Okay, so this is why it's just, I'm not the biggest fan of gold shell, in case you haven't noticed, right? And specifically IceRiver, well, I will give them props is that they are on top of the ball with being aggressive with the price. Okay, they did definitely fumble with this batch, though. Again, to me, my biggest thing is that this should have been the price instead of that $7,600 for the KS5L. This should have been what they went with, right? Because that definitely would have people reconsidering over this guy. It would definitely have affected these sales more. Okay, so why they didn't? Maybe they didn't get the sales they were expecting, or maybe they're kind of turned a little bit bearish on the market. I don't know, but again, it was literally just a few weeks ago where this price was reduced. Okay, so kind of shitty. Kind of depends on where you're at, but that's one of the biggest risks with these Kaspa ASICs, and one we've been harping over and over are these price reductions, right? Not just the yield effects and all that we've been talking about. The one big thing we've been talking about from the get-go is it's these price reductions, right? And it's not going to be gone until once we get into the point where we're closer to the bull market. So to me, this kind of between both IceRiver and bitmain kind of seems like the last push for these ASICs. I don't know if it's maybe because they're kind of going to start pivoting. Maybe it's because they're going to start pivoting towards another algorithm, and maybe they kind of want to just get this kind of chapter over. It's hard to tell, right? Because realistically, we know that it's extremely likely that a lithium RxD ASICs will eventually come out, and we're going to kind of see the same process that we saw with Kaspa, right? Kaspa kind of led the charge with these outrageous profitability numbers and outrageous ASIC prices, right? And this time it's going to be, in a sense, potentially even worse for the consumer, just because this is going directly into the potential beginning of the bull market versus last year still had a lot of bearish sentiment, bearish times, okay? Even though Kaspa's price was continually up. I mean, it's essentially Kaspa has been in a bull market from the get-go in reality, right? It's just, it's kind of crazy, bros. It's definitely a game changer. I will definitely be playing around with numbers just because, again, $40, $100 now makes it to the point where definitely more enticing, definitely more where it should have been, but now you have to risk the factor that, again, there is still going to be most likely yet another batch prior to those bitmain units coming out. So if Kaspa continues to go sideways, or maybe these don't sell, there is still potential for another price cut in August if Kaspa's price action goes sideways or goes down. Do I kind of see that being the case? Not really, right? Not necessarily. Kind of just depends on your viewpoint, where you think the market's going. Kaspa has been holding up extremely well considering what's been going on in the market, especially with alts, right? BTC in reality is not fluctuating a ton. It's just hovering between like mid 60s and 70. But a lot of the alts have been getting hit super duper hard. Kaspa has definitely been holding up. Okay, and a lot of people are like concerned, like, oh, it's just going sideways. But the fact that it's holding these ranges, considering everything going on, the sentiment, extremely bullish, right? Especially once things do kickstart or we do get good news, things are going to go bullish. So do I really expect it to get much cheaper than this? Maybe. Again, anything can happen. We can go sideways, we can go down, but now at these price points, it's like the risk goes down significantly, right? Because again, when it was 12K, yes, there was a risk for 50% price reductions, which that's kind of the mindset you kind of have to have. You have to be fully ready for any of these price cuts. That's why people have asked, like, oh, is it going to happen with the KS5 Pro? Potentially. You have to factor in the possibility of that. Yes, it's that price and it was a good price, but do not be surprised that if IceRiver continues to cut, Kaspa goes sideways or down, that this thing could go down even further come August. Do I see that being super likely? Not really. But you kind of have to be ready for that process, and that's kind of what I've been
kind of saying to people, and even telling myself, like when I'm running these numbers, it has to make sense to the point where even if the following month there's a 50% reduction in that miner, am I okay with that price cut? Is it going to affect me long term? And at this price point, the risk just got reduced pretty dramatically. Because again, even if it goes down another 50%, which I don't really see that happening next month, you're going from 4,800 to 2,400. Do I see that happening? No. At this point, maybe a 20% if things are pretty bearish. It's hard to really imagine that, just considering the profitability. Okay, at the end of the day, this unit is still currently making nearly 50 bucks a day. Obviously, it's going to go down. Realistically, like the way I'm thinking about it, I'm cutting this yield in half come September. Okay, there's going to be an extreme potential for the hash rate to go up immensely, especially if a lot of people do buy these batches of the KS5Ls. All the people who did purchase the KS5 Pro, it's going to go up massively come August, September. The one hope we have is, number one, price appreciation between Kaspa and also the price of the miner. So that's kind of where could make sense in a way, just to kind of lock in that current price. And to me, at this point, the risk has definitely been reduced pretty significantly, because again, going from 4,800 to 2,400, not the biggest deal in the world, but going from 12,000 for anybody who pre-ordered in the freaking April batch down to this price, super freaking shitty. Okay, and there's no other way to sugarcoat it. Like, it's extremely shitty, and to me, the value just wasn't there. It hasn't been there. Okay, and that's why, like, a lot of these units, just comparing to when I got my KS3M, it just kind of didn't make sense that prices were the same price per terahash, yet the yield was a third of what it was back then. Okay, so you kind of have to look at it. You kind of have to think about those worst case scenarios, right? So, I mean, with these smaller units, the KS0 Ultra, whatever, it's $100, it's only a couple $100, but with like the bigger units, you have to factor in that potential risk. Okay, so to me, immediately got massively more appealing, to the point where it is changing stuff for me. Right? I definitely have to rerun numbers, and now this is part of the reason I wanted to wait. Right, I wanted to wait what's going to happen with these shows, because again, we have WD Mass coming up and the Mining Disrupt all weeks away, right? So pretty much by Mining Disrupt is when I want to 100% be with my choice. But realistically, this does change things where I might just scoop one of these up, right? Because at this price point, extremely appealing. Okay, so not saying it's a buy, not just run your numbers, right? When I'm talking about these things, it's literally the thoughts just running through my head as a potential consumer of these things. Okay, but for me, just eyeballing it, thinking about it real quick, pretty good price point, right? And does kind of suck though for existing Kaspa ASICs. Like, this just definitely tanked the price of the KS3M. So I know with the last price reduction, I know a lot of you guys had mentioned you sold right before. You guys played it freaking perfectly, because if you still have that money, you essentially pretty much traded that KS3M for the KS5L. So played it extremely well. So shout out to any of you guys who did that. Very good job there, right? So definitely a big change. Definitely something to look at. And this is the game, guys. This is that ASIC game. At least until we get into the swing of the bull market. So come like September, October, that time frame, this kind of thing is likely to be done. And it's probably going to be, instead of monthly price reductions on the different batches because of profitability going down, it's probably going to be the other way around, right? It'll be monthly price increases. Okay, so we're almost getting to that point where we're flipped, but not yet. Hopefully this price action kind of remains. I know a lot of people are doom and gloom, but I'm loving it right now while I make up my damn choice on what I'm going to be trying to get, right? So let me know in the comments, guys. What do you guys think? Is this guy more in line? Because again, this is kind of what we're waiting for, and this was our biggest gripe with the other one. Let me know what you guys think. Are you guys kind of annoyed? Because I know some of you guys were purchasing the other one. I know a lot of you guys purchased this gold shell thing, which haven't been a fan of from the get-go, and even less now. Hopefully maybe they reduce this price though, because now this guy at like $1,000, definitely much more appealing, right? Definitely definitely appealing, right? So we're gonna have to see how they react. We're gonna have to see how the rest of the market reacts. We're gonna have to wait to see if this guy reacts, which I doubt it, because again, realistically, it's still a good deal, right? Because at the end of the day, the efficiency is just dramatically different. Reliability, quality of the unit is just dramatically different. So I'm gonna have to see though, right? So again, let me know what you guys think. Tough one, bros. Tough. Just in general, man. Crazy, crazy times, guys. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. And I am out, guys.